I know you started by saying that, yes, it is incumbent upon the government to figure out how they are going to manage the situation. When you look at some of the proposals, do you think they're realistic? If not these ones, are there other windows that, in your opinion, as industry players, you think government would explore so that, they cushion Kenyans even more? But even before you get to respond, we have our camera people, we have my team on ground just traversing the different parts of the city, that is Nairobi, to see whether the prices have already been adjusted, like we witnessed yesterday upon that declaration by EPRA. Ultimately we got to see that the prices were adjusted almost immediately. I don't know whether Chalo is ready to paint a picture for us as to what is happening. And even as we continue with the conversation, I know those pictures will be running down on your screen. You'll get to see whether the prices have been adjusted lower as expected from that declaration of adjusting the VAT, that is from 13% to 8%. But yes, back to you, Chomba. The realistic aspect to this and, the implications ultimately, like you rightfully say, perhaps they would be on the positive because businesses will not have to close down and all that.
So, first of all, I would wish also to appreciate something that needs to be done within the petroleum industry. Petroleum industry has been seen as an elitist industry, such that there are very few people get to understand what happens within the movement of petroleum. And so people have this notion that is an extremely lucrative industry. And that's why you find the mushrooming of petrol stations across the country, such that when my seniors here, once they decide to probably retire, the first thing they go to is petroleum. But there's also mass exodus from that business by people who try to get to it, because very few of them understand, and capitalization sometimes is confused for profits. So today, one of the biggest problems we are facing in the country is, yes, there's petroleum within the country, but there's a critical number of traders who are not accessing that product. And the reason why they are not accessing that product is that the so-called non-franchised, the people like calling them independent, but I feel like it's very subjective to call them independent. The non-franchised petroleum dealers, everyone, Dr. Bai, where he comes from, Mr. Sosion, where you come from, in your village, there's a guy with a pump. That person is the one who fuels the borders, the motorbikes, and the Sientas in the village. They are the blood that supports the rural economy. So what happens with these people is that they don't have the capacity and the leverage to participate in the importation of this product. And so they scavenge from the oil marketers who have the leverage and the wherewithal to participate in the importation. And so when we have such a crisis, and there is something called subsidy, because I wanted to weigh in on now the demerits of subsidy, is that because they are not willing, the multinationals are not willing to wait to be paid later, so they don't release that product to those guys in the villages. And so what happens is you'll find that in as much as we have the product in the country, it is not reaching to that person because of the system that is there now, the trading system that is there. And so I've been saying this. I come from a village called Kangaita in Kirinyaga Central constituency. And in that village, there's a person with a pump, and all the wards around us, they are pumps. There are approximately 1,000 or so motorbikes. And so when they are not able to access fuel, they all go to Kerugoya town. And when they go to Kerugoya town, where you find the majors, then it becomes logistically impossible to fuel the motorbikes. And so when we have the molecules, in the industry we call the molecules, we call the product molecules, we have the physical molecules in the country. But in terms of reach, it's unable to reach. And this is what precipitated the crisis that we had in 2022 because of the subsidy model. And so for me, when you seated here, Linda, and you see on Twitter or TikTok or whatever, that there are people are lining up in Kerugoya town So what happens is when you live here, it doesn't matter whether you have money or not. You'd rather fuliza, but you do full tank.
Yeah.
Daktari does full tank. He does full tank. Everybody does full tank. Before you know it, we have created an artificial shortage.
Okay.
And so for me, what I'm saying is the only subsidy that is applicable, in my view, from where I sit as a trader, is one, the petroleum development levy, that is 5 shillings and 40 cents by every liter of petroleum that we consume at the pump. That money should be paid in advance to the oil marketers so that they can be allowed, because their problem is when you tell them to wait. When they wait perpetually, then they feel no need to release this product. I remember I told you, these are the gentlemen who are selling in the villages, and this is across the country, have no leverage. So the only contractual agreement with the majors is the stations you see in the highways and the byways. And so these companies cannot be indicted for holding, because they always tell you that we are taking our product to our contracted people. But if a station in Kilgoya was doing 5,000 liters a day and everybody else does not have product, so they are, whenever they stock, two hours down the line, the product is depleted. The turnaround time for the truck to go to Nairobi and come back, it will take a day, and so those shortage will be experienced. And so what I would wish the government would do, for me, the best mode of subsidy will always be taxes. Instead of telling these companies, pay, then we will repay you. And we know since 2018 thereabout, government lost credibility in terms of paying the pending bills. And so everybody feels that if I give my money and then wait to be paid for whatever reasons, I might wait perpetually. And so for us, it is easier when you tell these guys, instead of paying that so that we can pay you, we take a hit from taxes, and that now becomes very easy to trade, and the bottlenecks will be done with, and it will become, the product will be to everybody. Because as we sit, the problem that we are going to face next, from where I sit as a trader, is that access of this product will be a problem. So what the government is trying to do is a step towards the right direction, as I said, but further on, we may want to make sure that this product is accessible to every person in the villages. And as I said, the government does not own the oil, so the oil marketers need to be given that space so that they can trade in a way that they don't feel constrained by the systems.
You know, I was talking about this yesterday, Senior Sosion, to acknowledge that it comes at a very bad time. At a time when a country is dealing with these concerns about, of course, the